I'm going to show you how I darn point shoes. Every person is different with what they want for their point shoes to be darned, and this is how I do it for my daughter. So this is the finished product. I'll show you how I do it. So first of all, you need a point shoe. I've used a pencil and I have marked out the edge of the block very lightly in pencil, as you can see. I've marked that out. Now, next thing you will need is scissors, your darn, and a hook needle, and I use a disposable glove. You'll find where I've put the pencil mark on this actually helps the dancer to get up onto the block and then come back down again. So if you look here, say they're on the floor, it helps them steer up onto the block and then back down again. So that's how we darn the point shoes for my daughter. So once you've marked it out, you make sure you've got all your equipment. So we then get a piece of darn and I measure it. I make sure it's the right length. So I measure it around the edge of the block, like so. And then I double that. Okay? So I now have that doubled, and then you would cut that length. Next, you get your length of darn. And the general rule is you do not cut more darn than the length of your arm. So you've got your length of thread, and then next we need to thread our little hook needle. Alrighty? Okay, so we have our short thread. We're going to pop that along where the mark is for the lead pencil. So we're starting to shape the block with our double piece of thread. And we're going to go up and under with our first stitch. And this is where you need to make sure everything's neat and tidy. So we want this to be underneath. We're going to hold this, and then we're going to grab these two little ends now and put them with our other two that are going to shape the block. There are no knots in point shoes. We don't want anything for the dancer to have to try and manipulate. Everything needs to be balanced, even, nice and neat. So we've just done our first stitch, and that's going to hold it on a little bit for us. Next stitch, putting it up and under, and again we make sure that we're getting a decent amount of fabric. Put the thread around and prise that needle through. That's good. And then nice and neat. Sometimes it takes a little while to darn, but if you do it properly, it will be nice and neat, and it will be exactly how the dancer wants it to be, okay? So we've got to find that point where we're not getting too much, and we're just following the shape of the pencil, the block, and pull it. Now we've just hooked that in, so we loosen that a little bit. Pull those out. There we go. So make sure every stitch is right. Even if you have to stop and fix it, that's what you do. You don't want to make any mistakes with these. And then up and under. Now that is too deep. We want to try and follow the same line. So up and under. And sometimes it'll take you a few attempts because the fabric is so tight. There we go. And then blanket stitch. Hold those loose threads down and then prise that needle through. And then again, nice and neat. So you can see we've got a few little stitches. We still haven't tucked the rest of this tail in yet. And don't worry about this loose stuff here. That's going to be cut off at the end. And again, up and under. This is actually fairly easy to do here because you've got so much fabric to dig into, whereas doing it around the block can be quite difficult. So make sure that this loose thread is out of the road. You've tucked down your two other ends. And so now we've generally got a nice tight set of thread here. We've tied the loose thread underneath our stitches, and we're tying an additional level of thickness for the shape of our darn. So that's what these are. This is these two loose threads, which is one doubled over, much easier to manipulate, is giving us a bit more depth with our darning. And that's how my daughter likes it. She really likes to have that depth on her block. So, and again, you can see how I'm following the line of the lead. And then prise that needle through. You've got to be really gentle when you're darning, and then pull that nice and tight. And then every time we make a stitch, we want to make sure that our loose thread is following the line of the block. Okay, so we're starting to move up onto the block itself now. So you're holding your two little threads, and then you've pulled quite tight. Okay, and again. Now we have this thread left. What we're going to do is thread it back through where we've just stitched. So don't include the last stitch, go from your second last stitch, and I've just thread the needle through a number of stitches, and I've pulled that through, okay? So then we chop that as close as we can. So far this is what we've got. Okay? Nice and neat, nice and even. We've still got this. We need to get another length of thread. So right. Now we start again. So we have our two lengths still. We're going to start from here. We're going to come up and under. With this, if you start too far away this time, you're going to end up with a little gap. So I actually really like to start this one behind that last stitch. So start it behind it, and you gently pull that through. Now remembering we're going to have a loose end this time, so don't pull it too tight, don't pull it too fast. Pull in, and we'll just cut that because we've got plenty to get us through. So, same again, we have these two threads that are left. We want to tuck them onto the other ones. So again, there's no knots, there's no lumps. And then we go up and under. Again, make sure you get enough solid fabric, and it's very difficult once you try and get into the block itself with your needle, so just be really careful. sometimes this likes to knot up. So there we've got our first stitch. Now we go again, second stitch. Make sure when you push your needle that you're going with the curve of the needle. You're not trying to push it straight because you'll actually break your needle as well. Okay? And again, remember we want to be on that inside part of this lead pencil, this marking, but maybe not that far. No, let's have a look. So we're looking here. I think that's pretty good. They seem to be quite balanced. So we're going that far in. So now I'm finished with my stitches. Again, with the last part of it, you're still holding this thread down. Don't go into your last stitch. Go from your second last and then just thread your needle through 4 or 5, maybe 6 stitches. Pull it so it's neat. And then you cut that. Now, that's our join there. We need to come here to the very end of this and we need to cut that right up at the edge, and we're going back to the beginning. Got our loose thread and we're cutting that. Now, have we got anything else loose? There's nothing else loose. Now, see how it's quite even? Well, there's a little bit loose. Just the loose threads, you just want to chop them. So we've got them nice and even here, and then it comes up and then around and shapes onto the block. And that's how my daughter likes hers. So I've done the extra threading to give it the extra depth. There you go.